Williams is back, taking on Sergio Martinez, a title holder at 154 pounds, who is fighting for only the second time in his career at the middleweight level. And hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley. We welcome you to this HBO World Championship Boxing doubleheader, the last World Championship Boxing date of the year, and a showcase for two of the most interesting stories in the sport, Chris Arreola and Paul Williams. Later on the main event, Williams facing probably the most difficult opponent of his career in amazingly fast Sergio Martinez. But before that, a look at Chris Arreola in the heavyweight division, just 70 days removed from his shellacking at the hands of Vitaly Klitschko. And now let's turn to HBO boxing analyst Max Kellerman. And Max, give us a look at the heavyweight division as it now stands.
Sure, there's a situation at heavyweight now that I think boxing should embrace. The story that two brothers control the division. They are together the heavyweight champion, Vladimir and Vitaly, because if you want to be considered the champion of the world at heavyweight, you just need to beat those two guys. You don't need to beat Hay, who's certainly an exciting fighter, but merely a belt holder. And here are some of the other contenders in the division. Chris Arreola, as you mentioned, the best of the American contenders, although Kevin Johnson has shown an increased repertoire other than just his excellent jab in recent fights. Eddie Chambers is really too small for the division, but has lots of skills. Povetkin is the reigning super heavyweight Olympic gold medalist and undefeated at heavyweight. Tomas Adamek, the cruiserweight champ, moved up, beat the hell out of Andrew Galata. And Boistov is, you know, he's a good, although undersized, heavyweight boxer puncher.
By the way, two of the Americans on that top row, Kevin Johnson and Eddie Chambers, have separate dates against the Klitschkos. Johnson fighting Vitaly, and Eddie Chambers scheduled to fight Vladimir in the first few months of 2010. Meanwhile, you might have thought, after the shellacking that he took from Vitaly on September 26, that Arreola would have been away a little bit longer than 70 days. But he wanted to come back in a hurry, apparently to boost his confidence. Let's take a look back at what happened when Arreola went in against Vitaly Klitschko. There had been a lot of talk about how the hyper-aggressive Chris Arreola would go inside and try to test Klitschko up close. It wasn't to be, as Arreola had no creative approach to getting inside, simply tried to bull rush the much larger man, and Klitschko's height and reach advantages allowed him to simply stop Arreola with left jabs or right crosses every time Arreola tried to storm forward. The result was an increasingly one-sided fight, which after 10 rounds was finally stopped by California referee John Shorley, a TKO victory for Vitaly, and a hard lesson for Chris Arreola on the difficulties of mounting the summit in the heavyweight division against a guy like Klitschko, who conditions himself so well over the 365-day course of the year. So Arreola says he'll be better tonight. Let's look at how he prepared. Vitaly Klitschko is throwing jabs, right hands, and Arreola is having trouble finding the distance from which to get started.
I hate losing. Hate it.
Can't stop the right hand.
How long can he go on taking this kind of punishment?
I got my ass kicked. Plain and simple.
Blood coming now from the nostrils of Chris Arreola.
I've never been beat like that. Ever in my life.
I just want to show sorry to everybody, man. I really wanted to be a champion today, man. And I worked my ass off. Fuck. This ain't the last you've seen of me. Fuck that, I'm coming back.
I was emotional after the fight because, you know, you're that close to your goal that you've had your whole life, to be a champion. You're there. You could see it, you could feel the title, and it hurts to fall so short, you know.
Chris Arreola's first professional defeat at the hands of heavyweight titleist Vitaly Klitschko raised no questions about Arreola's heart, but did cast doubt on his commitment to boxing outside the ring.
I think for a long time, Chris has been winning in spite of himself. I think he has the physical tools to become something special. What's missing is that dedication, that desire to make boxing a full-time commitment. And I think the jury is still out as to whether or not he can do that.
As far as having to work and push him sometimes, man, sometimes he could be a complete asshole. Even for at times for the Vitaly Klitschko fight, there were still times we had to like kind of fight and push and almost a tug of war between him and I.
I have taken training seriously. You know, I do all I can and do my best to listen to Henry. Of course, there's times that, you know, we bump heads, but, you know, we're in there and we're working our butts off.
When Arreola enters the ring tonight, it will have been only 10 weeks since his loss to Klitschko. Not much time off to recover from defeat.
This actually was a blessing in disguise because it didn't feel like we were starting from scratch. You know, it felt like we were just kind of took a little break and we're back at it again. He's been pretty receptive.
I love fighting. I'm a fighter. That's what I do. It's time for me to get back in the saddle and fight.
Alongside the goal of erasing the memory of the Klitschko defeat, there's a more practical reason to get Arreola back into the ring as soon as possible.
I didn't gain those 40 pounds that I would have if I had another month, you know. Right now, we started camp at 270. The last camp, when I fought Vitaly, we started at almost like a 295, 290 something.
I think Arreola's handlers know that the longer they wait, the more possibility it is for Chris to fall back into bad habits.
Vitaly Klitschko just showed, you know, how much work I got to do in order for me to be there.
Good body work, good.
You know, I'm just trying to work my butt off a lot more. Put more intensity into sparring. I just gotta have to fight and claw my way back up there again.
It's been only 70 days since the Klitschko fight, but long enough for Team Arreola to learn from an old sports adage. You learn more from a loss than a victory.
I told him, just remember the way you felt that night. The way to not let it happen again is do everything you can to prevent it. Do everything you can to prevent losing. No cutting corners.
This loss with Vitaly wasn't only a speed bump, but it was also a motivation. He gave me a pat in the ass, and here you go. Now you know what you got to do. So now I know what I got to do, and it's time to do it.
So he went right back into the gym, and he's in better shape tonight, right? Nope. He weighs 12 pounds more than he did when he fought Klitschko on September 26. And frankly, a Chris Arreola who might have a chance in the heavyweight division is more likely to be the guy who fought Chaz Witherspoon early in 2009 at 239. Emmanuel, what do we make of Chris Arreola at this point?
Well, I tell you what, weight is probably reflective of where he is, not only in terms of his training attitude, but also mentally. The fact that this man is weighing more than he weighed when he had his greatest fight, which was Vitaly Klitschko. I mean, there's no excuse for that. And, you know, I'm listening to interviews of his. It's all about bad habits, you know, the trainer having to force him to go to the gym. I worked with 6 heavyweight champions, and the problem I had with most of them, we had arguments, was about me trying to force them from training too much. You look at all of the top fighters today, whether it's Pacquiao, Mayweather, Shane Mosley, Bernard Hopkins, the one thing that they all have in common, they are legends for their preparation and their training and their dedication to the sport. If Chris Arreola didn't learn from that last fight and that beating that he received from Vitaly Klitschko, I don't think he's ever going to change too much.
Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, both Klitschkos, gym rats, people who can't stay out of the gym. That is not yet what Chris Arreola is. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape now for Arreola and Brian Minto as he gets ready for this assignment. And you can see the 6-year age advantage for Arreola, the 4.5-inch height advantage for Arreola, the 3.5-inch arm length advantage measured from the armpit to the end of the fist, and the 47-pound difference in weight, or maybe it's a 45-pound difference in weight. The bottom line is this gives you an idea as to how the opponent for tonight was chosen. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Chris Arreola Brian Minto fight is scheduled for 10 rounds, non-title, using the unified rules that you see on your screen. Jim, real quick, the 4 criteria that the judges will use to score each individual round: clean punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, and defense, with a strong emphasis on clean, effective punching. Jim!
Brian Minto from Butler, Pennsylvania, is a worker bee. His big win was 2 years ago in Germany over Axel Schultz in a fight that Schultz clearly was not mentally ready for. You got to be mentally ready to fight Minto because he won't back down, he's active, and he will try to fight you at some point.
Well, I tell you, tonight, this is what should be a perfect opponent for Arreola. You know, it's a guy that's not really a big threat size-wise, experience-wise, and he's not physically a big man. But nevertheless, it still could be a competitive fight simply because of Arreola's lack of preparation, I think, physically and mentally. But normally this would be like a blowout. It wouldn't even be approved in most cases as a value.
At 5'10", it's not as though he was selected to make people forget about the Klitschko fight. He's a 5'10" opponent, not a 6'7" champion. This is simply a get him back in the ring as soon as possible kind of fight, as you guys mentioned, for Arreola.
And Arreola tonight fighting 3,000 miles away from Los Angeles after having faced the pressure of fighting before his home crowd and people who had grown up with him in Los Angeles, and perhaps that was the reason for the emotional breakdown in the ring afterward. That kind of spirit could help him as a fighter if it drove him to really work hard in the gym.
Yeah, it could, but evidently it hasn't. I mean, there's no way he's coming in. You know, before the fight with Vitali, he came in with this rubber outfit weight on 270 as a joke, and he took it off, and naturally he was about 20 pounds lighter. For the night's fight, he's coming in weighing that, and this is real flesh. I mean, he's got to have a better dedication. As you said, Jim, after his last fight when he fought Vitali, if you want to compete with the Klitschkos and the top guys, you American heavyweights got to start becoming boxers 365 days of the year. I think a lot of heavyweights may have heard it, except for the one that should have heard it the most.
And Jim, you mentioned 239 for the Witherspoon fight. He could have been in significantly better shape for that fight. I mean, 225 is probably about right for Chris Arreola, but this is who he is.
Yep, I don't think we'll ever see 225. Let's go to ring announcer Jimmy Lennon Jr. now for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you and welcome to Boardwalk Hall here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. As we have a big night of action in store for you, it is brought to you by Goose & Tudor Promotions, made possible by Tecate, Caesars Atlantic City, and Azad Watches. At this time, we present the first of our special attractions, introducing our three judges scoring from ringside. From New Jersey, Pierre Benoist. Also from New Jersey, Lynn Carter. And from New York, Julie Lederman. Introducing our third man of the ring, our referee in charge of this bout, Ed Cotton. All right, fans, here we go. Fireworks in the heavyweight division in a special attraction scheduled for 10 rounds of boxing. Introducing to you first on my right, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white trunks with black trim, fighting out of Butler, Pennsylvania. He weighed in at a ready 218 pounds. His record stands at 34 wins, 2 losses, with 21 wins coming by way of knockout. Please welcome the former football standout and 2-time title holder, introducing Brian the Beast Minto. And his opponent across the ring on my left, fighting out of the red corner in this 10-round attraction, wearing blue trunks, fighting out of and representing Riverside, California. He weighed in at 263 pounds with a record of 27 wins, 1 defeat. He has 24 big wins coming by way of knockout. Please welcome the former world title challenger, currently ranked the WBC #4 heavyweight contender, introducing Chris the Nightmare Arreola. Once again, a referee in charge, Ed Cotton, now to give instructions.
All right, boxers, you both received our instructions in the dressing room. Obey my commands and protect yourself at all times. All right, I expect a good, clean fight. Let's touch gloves. Let's go.
More than punching power or his personality out of the ring, the reason Chris Arreola connects with boxing fans is he fights with passion. In a division where we often see a clinical kind of style of fighting nowadays, Arreola fights with real passion.
And also, Max, he does have a good punch. You know, it's something what you look for with heavyweights. You need power. You know, just to see guys just blowing and trying to win a 10-round decision is not going to create excitement in the heavyweight division.
I expected 263 to look a little bit more jiggly than this. Maybe he is adding some muscle.
Well, you know, he was one of our top amateur fighters. In fact, he was, I think, national Golden Glove champion at 175. But, you know, if he would do what he should live up to do, he would be great for boxing, particularly heavyweight division when we're looking so much for a heavyweight in America.
And you make a great point. Having fought as an amateur at 175, and Max points out he fights with unusual passion, or what we see as unusual passion for present-day heavyweights.
Well,
I think he still has the mentality of a 175-pound fighter.
Yeah, well, he's fighting, he's boxing tonight, which is very good. I've noticed he's jabbing, he's patient, and he's becoming the boxer compared to when he fought. Naturally, Vitali had to be more aggressive, but he's been more patient tonight. As an amateur, he was really known for his boxing ability, believe it or not.
And he knocks Minto for a two-step stroll with his right hand over the top.
Step back. Let him go. Step back.
Already,
Step back.
two of Chris's punches have moved Minto around the ring. So the power differential is visible from the get-go.
Yeah, another advantage that Arreola enjoys against many heavyweights, including Minto, is because of the amateur background. Emmanuel, you mentioned, he has muscle memory. You know, when these other heavyweights, even if they're more athletic than him, when they get in exchanges, Chris has been doing it for so many years that the exchange tends to favor him.
Well, he's boxing a very good fight at this point right now. Patient and moving very light on his feet, keeping good balance. And he's actually at this stage not so much just because of the physical size, he's actually beating Minto because of his skills. Not that Minto is a super skillful fighter, but he's jabbing, keeping his balance, punches are short and accurate.
For his part, Minto's plan, as you might suspect, is to try to stay low and stay wide. Be anywhere other than right in front of Arreola, where Arreola can land his power shots and his jab against it. So far in the first round, it hasn't worked out well for Minto, as Arreola, putting punches together well, has been able to tag him.
It's fun playing Klitschko. It's fun being the Klitschko in there.
Come on. By far the larger man.
With an educated jab.
Now you may think, okay, 47-pound weight differential, closed case. David Hay recently overcame a 103-pound weight differential to beat Nikolai Valuev.
But he utilized speed, and that was the difference. Where right now, Minto, shouldn't have said it.
Yeah, that's the thing about Hay. Hay is like real athletic and stuff, Jim.
Yeah, I know.
Fast, hits hard.
Yeah. It's almost unfair.
Hey, look, deep breath, deep breath. Keep working with that jab, okay? Want you moving your head, though, side to side, all right? Get back to using that jab. Look, he's slipping the right hand, so I want you working with the jab. Look for something underneath. Uppercut, hook.
You too, right off the lateral movement, okay? Start using more feints. Okay? And when you're inside, don't take your head over to the right too much. Start putting it in his chest and working using your head on the inside.
Here we see Arreola land a right hand. It's very much similar to the photographs that we saw when he was fighting with Vitali Klitschko and utilizing his size by moving back.
CompuBox numbers in round one.
You see Minto land a beautiful straight right hand.
That's all right. Excuse me, Emmanuel. CompuBox numbers in round one. Arreola 17 out of 44, 9 of 19 power shots. Minto 13 out of 35. Harold Letterman gives the first round to Chris.
Well, I would say this much. Both guys are making a good performance for themselves tonight. Minto is boxing, fighting very intelligent. Both guys are fighting much more intelligent than I think we expected. Boxing a lot more, placing the punches. It hasn't turned out to be the brawl.
Minto is also, I was joking about how athletic Hay was. Minto's also fairly athletic, but is badly outsized in this fight.
Well, and not just from that, also the experience, the great amateur background that Arreola had also.
Minto's a former football player, as you might suspect for somebody from that size from Western Pennsylvania. And in case you wondered where you've seen or heard his trainer, Tom Yankello, before, if you followed the career of Paul Spadafora, lightweight from Pittsburgh back in the 90s and the early part of this century, Yankello was the trainer who groomed Spadafora.
Yankello, a good defensive coach.
He's probably been the standout coach for amateur art professionals in this Pittsburgh area, I'd say, for about the last 10, 12 years. Did a great job with some of the good amateur fighters coming out of here, too.
Hard left hook inside by Arreola. Minto took that one pretty well. It's as though Minto was jarred in the first round by Arreola's power, but has begun to settle in a little bit now that he's tasted it.
Both guys are throwing very crisp punches, and you can see Arreola's trying to use that counter left hook when Minto comes in to catch with the tape. There it is again.
Hard right hand.
His left hook has been the most dominant punch in the fight, particularly when Minto's coming forward, throwing a punch.
That time, Minto was able to counter the right inside of the left hook of Arreola.
You notice the first round, Arreola was throwing basically right hands, a lot of 1-2s, 1-2s, which Minto was going down and dropping below, and he couldn't land solid. So this round, he's changed up his attack. He's jabbing, and he put a left hooks in his arsenal, which he didn't use at all the first round.
Good right hand inside by Minto. Arreola lands a right as Minto moves away.
And you see why Arreola landed that counter, because he throws in combination. Not a lot of heavyweights throw in combination, and again, I think that goes back, Emmanuel, to his amateur background at light heavy.
Yes, he was a very good boxer. At this stage right now, Minto's fighting a very good fight, too. It's just the physical size and seeming the experience against better opponents is beginning to show now as the fight moves on.
Minto's brave as all get out, though, continuing to step up inside against Arreola's shots and look to counter. And now there's blood over the right eye of Brian Minto. Probably from one of those left hooks. Good rounds.
Bad swallowed under the left eye of Minto.
Oh, he caught a big right. Both eyes are troubled for Minto now.
Mike went down. Hold the ice. Hold the ice.
December 8th, don't miss the next installment of Joe Buck Live. Among the guests, Pedro Martinez, Brian Urlacher, Michael Strahan, and Floyd Mayweather. January 26th kicks off another run of the Emmy Award-winning series 24/7. This time we'll leave the boxing behind and take you inside the lives of NASCAR superstar Jimmy Johnson and his teammates as they prepare for the Daytona 500.
Give me more of this like this. Look, little feints like this, okay? Brian, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Look here. Your hands are coming down.
Okay. I'm at the end of that round a little bit, right? Keep working off the jab on combinations, right? I just don't want you standing in front of them.
CombiBox numbers on power shots in round 2. Minto, 13-26. Arreola, 15-34. Arreola's shots are bigger because he's bigger. Minto's cut man is Eli Babbitt. Don't know him, haven't seen him, but he appeared to do all the right things between rounds.
Yes, he's got dealing with 2 issues, and both of them come up at the same time in the same round. A cut in addition to really enormous swelling under the left eye.
Yep, so he worked the in-swell under the left eye. Didn't seem to gain much purchase from that.
It did seem he was pushing away from the center of the eye towards the outer eye with the end swell, and generally you hear guys talk about how you just want to apply steady pressure with the end swell. Although it does bring temporary relief when you do the end swell that way, apparently.
Normally when you're using end swell, you try to take the swell and push it away from the center, from the eye, but you know, he didn't have much time to do that anyway.
They've said in recent years that then the swelling gets worse later on.
Hard right hand over the top by Arreola. Minto jumping inside to fire a left hook. But Minto's taking some heavy shelling now here in the 3rd round. And the question will arise as to how long he can last. So he's stepping up and getting aggressive.
Both guys are landing a lot of clean punches, and the punches are crisp punches too. This is, even though he's fought and had some good wins, I think this is Minto's best performance in his career tonight, thus far.
Good heavyweight fight. Brian Minto putting up a fight against Chris Arreola. There's a little blood inside the bridge of Arreola's nose on the left side, just next to his eye, as though there's a nick in there.
One of the reasons Minto was selected as an opponent is because he does have an exciting style. He is a tough guy. He'll go rounds if at all he can.
Let him go, let him go,
and
let him
he'll
go.
be throwing punches the whole time, as you see him doing here.
And I'm quite sure he brought some people here too. This is his home area. Don't forget this whole, you know, New Jersey and Pennsylvania area. A lot of people are here to support him.
That's pretty tough right hand punching downhill from Chris Arreola.
Arreola working his jab a lot in this round. Probably figuring that he's softening Minto up for the kill.
I think he's surprised the fact that Minto's went this long and has taken so many good punches from him too.
There's a jab that almost buckled Minto's leg.
Minto has almost buckled on 5 or 6 different shots, including once on a body shot. But he's hanging in and firing back.
Time!
And as they work on Brian Minto between rounds, we will take a look into the dressing room of Paul Williams. The tall southpaw who is regarded as one of the most avoided fighters in boxing, if not the most avoided. Paul Williams claims he can still make 147 easily and wants to fight against top welterweights like Miguel Cotto and Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather for that matter, but he's a head taller than all of them, which leaves most of us expecting that he'll probably wind up fighting more frequently at 154 and 160 than at welterweight, and maybe in fact never again.
You're letting distance be there and you're not jabbing it, okay?
Go!
Average jabs per round from CompuBox, 8 of 26 for Arreola, 5 of 22 for Minto. The numbers are relatively even, which shows you how hard Minto is working to stay in the fight. But the faces tell the story. Harold, how do you have it so far?
Okay, Jim, 3 rounds to nothing, 30-27, Chris Arreola. You know, Jim, Brian Minto's trying like heck. I mean, he's in that backing that right hand to the body, but Chris Arreola is just too big, hitting him too hard. So when they stand there and trade, Arreola just does more damage. When you look at these guys at the end of the round and you say to yourself, who did more damage in that round? You have to go with Arreola in each of the 3 rounds. 3-0, Arreola.
Well, I tell you what, Minto's giving him all that he can take, and if he was a bigger guy, I think Arreola would be in serious trouble right now.
As is the case in so many.
Minto was bigger, yeah.
As is the case in so many heavyweight fights nowadays. Really, it's 2 guys competing in 2 different divisions. It's not a fair fight at heavyweight. Although throughout heavyweight history, there have always been different sizes.
Perfect right hand, and Minto goes down on his knees. Big shot from Arreola.
7!
Well, Minto got brave and was trading with Arreola.
You ready to go?
That wasn't the fight plan. The idea was not to trade with Arreola. He's never been knocked out, but he's never been in a situation like this either. Look at the determination of Brian Minto.
Minto's such a tough guy.
Well, I know who's going to come out to winner with the crowd in this fight. It's Minto, regardless of what the final outcome is.
Well, Minto's doing himself proud.
And this is what he's known for.
All right, stop.
He grabs Arreola and holds on as he gets tagged with another right and fires away again.
Okay.
Minto almost with the first tackle of the night.
Come on, get up.
Instead, it is he who's going down.
Arreola's getting such leverage on that right hand, punching down.
Yeah, punching down. His right hand is getting off.
Minto almost went down again.
He just walked through such a right hand.
Oh my gosh. How did Minto stand up from that?
Ref.
Eddie Cotton would be within his rights in stopping it now, but Brian Minto's going to get up again.
Well, he's going to really have lost his equilibrium. Just spinning around like that, when you get up after spinning and turning on the floor, your equilibrium is
I do not believe he'll have any legs at this moment. Eddie stops the fight. Good stoppage. Arreola gets the knockout. What an effort by Brian Minto. and that face is grotesque.
And there's an example of a fighter being saved from himself, because there was no quit in Brian Minto.
Unbelievable. Well, Emmanuel, if you had your wish and there were a super heavyweight division and a heavyweight division, these guys wouldn't have been in the same division.
No, they wouldn't.
tonight.
You know, there shouldn't be a limit like in amateurs. You have the heavyweights and then you have the super heavyweights. It should be a limit of like 220, and that was where Minto would be, and he would be a serious threat. But you know, when you're going up now, guys up to 300 pounds almost, and they have coordination. So, it used to be guys who was big, over 6'4", he wasn't coordinated, but that's not the case today.
Let's take a look at some of the replays from the finish. Here's the first knockdown, Emmanuel.
Right here, you see the right hand, a tremendous right hand, especially coming from over top. That Minto never even saw the right hand because it was the right hand came over top of his glove.
And that sent Minto forward onto his hands and knees. From that point forward, it was a matter of whether Brian could survive the round. And he took some unbelievably hellacious shots. That's another look at the right-hand knockdown. Second knockdown.
You can see the right hand here. With just so much speed. And Arreola's experience is really propelling right now.
And you see Minto rolling and grappling with the canvas to try to get up. He did make it to his feet, but Eddie Cotton very wisely stopped the fight as Minto was totally out on his feet. Arreola closed the show, landing 34 of his last 46 power shots. Let's go to Jimmy Lennon Jr. for the particulars on the knockout.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the time. 2 minutes, 40 seconds in round number 4. Our referee in charge, Ed Cotton, stops the contest. He is the winner by way of technical knockout, Chris the Nightmare Arreola.
Stand up right now. Final CompuBox numbers. Arreola landing 35 more, throwing 36 more, and connecting at a higher percentage. Punching down at Minto. He had a clear view of Minto, and it was easy to land, particularly once he started working his left hook and his jab in rounds 2 and 3. Power shots, and we told you the percentage here for Arreola is going to be dramatically boosted by what happened in that last round. He winds up landing nearly 60% of his power shots, but look how open he was. Little Brian Minto at 5'10", with a 5.5-inch height disadvantage, landed 45 out of 97 power shots.
And I think a lot of it was because I think Arreola wasn't even expecting or respecting Minto that much, and that's why he got caught with some of those punches, because he wasn't expecting punches to come back.
Let's go to Max Kellerman with Chris Arreola.
Chris, you always seem to be the kind of guy who likes a good fight. How'd you like that fight?
It was a great fight, man. Gotta tip my hats off to Brian Minto, man. He's a tough motherfucker. You know, comes in here, came here to win, man. He came in here to knock my block off. A couple times he got me against the ropes, but I was aware enough to get out the way. And I was trying to pick my punches because I seen those wild right hands coming. A couple times he caught me with those.
Did he buzz you with them? Were you hurt at any time?
Nah, I hurt my hand on his head.
Hard head.
Yeah, extremely.
What kind of a message did you send to the division tonight?
You know what? I hope I sent a good message that I'm still a man to be reckoned with. That, you know, regardless of my previous loss, that, you know, I'm still a top 10 heavyweight in the world, if not top 5.
For all of the toughness that Brian showed tonight, no one's going to confuse him with Vitaly Klitschko.
No, of course not. Of course not. He ain't no Vitaly Klitschko, you know, but he's still tough. There's a tough guy in there regardless. But then again, who is compared to Vitaly Klitschko? Nobody.
Vladimir, maybe. So, Chris, this fight was about staying active. How active do you want to be?
I want to fight as soon as possible within the next 3 months. Once again, let's get back in the ring. But like I said before, you know, it's all up to Mr. Dan and Al Heyman.
Let me ask you this. We comment a lot about your weight in various fights. You'll talk about, I'm going to be in better shape. Then the weight goes up for the next fight. Should we just leave you alone about this? Is this just who you're going to be?
You know, first of all, you know, I want to apologize to all the people out there that were on my back, you know, that support me, and the ones that hate me. You know, I give them more reason to hate me. I come in here 263,
But regardless, man, I came here ready to fight. You know, you can't measure that. You can't measure the sparring you do or the ring work, the gym work. You know, you can't measure that. And my biggest problem is when it comes 9 o'clock at night, I get hungry, man. And you know, Alberto's is open 24 hours a day, so I'm going over there all the time.
Congratulations on an exciting win, Chris. It's always exciting when you fight. Jim?
All right, thank you very much. It snowed earlier today in Atlantic City.